All right, y'all, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of hashtag CB99 Talks. This is episode 11. Of course, I'm Combo Breaker 99, and I'm back with another with y'all. Got another interesting show, some interesting topics I want to, discuss with you like always. But yeah, man, today, I just want to go back and talk a little bit about some of the fights that took place this past weekend, and also, kind of going a little bit more about what's been going on around the world as far as like how our champions in boxing have kind of responded to what's been going on in our country. You know, also one of the major topics I want to talk about is going to be the title of this show. It's tough enough, and the reason I want to talk about being tough and just that term and what it means to boxers and mixed martial artists is usually when you hear that phrase, "Are you tough enough?" People think, okay, how tough is this fighter? What kind of beating can they take? What kind of heart they really have? But I actually want to address, being tough in another way. When is tough enough? When have you shown that you're tough enough? When can we look past that and just start focusing on skill and, let's be honest, self-preservation, so you can have enough of what you had in this fight to fight another day, because I think that a lot of fighters sometimes they can get carried away with showing how tough they are, but they just don't realize sometimes, or they might not have somebody in their corner to tell them, "You prove you're tough enough. That's enough. Let's move on and let's evolve. Let's do something different. Let's progress. Let's make sure that we have what it takes to fight another day. Let's use this mind instead of the heart." So, that's something I want to talk about. So, yeah, want to talk boxing, Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. These guys as champions and how they're speaking out of the ring. Again, we'll talk about being tough, and I bring that topic up because I want to talk about how it pertained to the Amanda Nunes Felicia Spencer fight. Talking about Felicia Spencer specifically, and then just talk about Jessica Eye, Cynthia Calvillo, that fight, and what else has been going on in boxing. Boxing's return. Want to just give you how I feel about boxing's return. Last week, we had several cards. We had several cards to kind of bring us back into boxing, but did they match up to mixed martial arts, to the UFC cards that Dana White's been giving us? So yeah, we'll talk about all that, man. But first up, Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. Me and my partner Boxing P, we talked about this on the Jab podcast. Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, they both given their takes on what's been going on in our country. Anthony Joshua from the UK, he spoke out what's going on over here in the United States, amidst the murders with and the killings of innocent black people like George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. The most, those recent ones. Of course, there's been these other lynchings that we're kind of looking into right now. Um, you know, they both, in their own way, have expressed themselves, in their own ways. I mean, if you see them in boxing, them in boxing. They're both two different people, but at the same time, they feel the same pain, but they express it in different ways. Deontay Wilder, he's spoken out with a poem, and then you had Anthony Joshua. He's giving his speech in his hometown when he was walking with his city, as a protest. He gave his opinions on the riots and the protesting. And to me, I feel like, both of these men really made a statement in their own way. Being a champion, to me, it stands for something not just in the ring, but it means a lot when you actually have something to stand for as well as outside of the ring. Because whether these champions like it or not, that spirit that they carry in the ring, it goes outside of the ring as well. Because a lot of fans look to them. They look to them. They look up to them. It almost goes back to the Dave Chappelle stand up, way back when he talked about like people wanting to know in times of crisis, they want to know what somebody like Ja Rule thinks. I mean, of course, he's different because it can be kind of different because he's a rapper, but when other people look at boxers, they're seeing a fighter, they're seeing that actual warrior who puts his life on the line every day. So when something like this happens to one of your own, they want to know what Deontay Wilder thinks. They want to know what Anthony Joshua thinks. They want to know what Errol Spence Jr. thinks. They want to know what these fighters think. And they want to know how they feel. They want to know their expression too, because like I said, they fight in the ring, but there's also a fight for us outside of the ring. So whether these fighters like it or not, they have to acknowledge that they are role models in some way. People see them as something like that. So for me, I think it takes a special fighter like Wilder, Joshua, to carry that energy outside, stand tall, stand up, give us their thoughts on how they feel. Deontay Wilder, he expressed his anger, his pain, his sadness, all in that one poem. And there have been some people trying to say, "Oh man, he's being an opportunist here and there," but I was like, whatever, man. Like he's been saying this, that phrase till this day. He said that already. That was his. He was telling y'all then that we've been having these same issues. We've been facing these same injustices. He's been telling the people that it's just now that everybody's starting to wake up. So he's been there. He's been facing mistreatment. I mean, if people really were taking the time before to know their history, they would know that he is going to face some type of injustice in his life, and it's not going to. This isn't going to be the last time. Just because he speaks out, it's not going to be the last time for him or anybody like him. And you could really feel it in his poem. Some people were just saying, "Oh, he's just trying to stir up things, or he's just doing this for money." No, man, he really means it. He really means it, and you can again, you can really feel it in the words he was speaking. And also Anthony Joshua, his approach was a little bit more different, and he also caught a lot of flack for his. He also caught a lot of flack because the people that were riding for him, now you can really kind of see how they kind of expose themselves as racist. There's some people saying that, oh, he's being racist because he's speaking out and trying to protect the black community and telling people to buy black owned and to stop the riotings and, support your own. Help us get to a certain point. Help us get to that certain point. So when Anthony Joshua is saying, support black owned, no, he's just saying, hey, we need to get our business right too, man. Mexicans support Mexicans, Chinese sports Chinese. It's a Chinatown. When Mexican fighters come here, Mexico is behind them 100%. Scotland people, Irish people, Conor McGregor fans, Ricky Hatton fans. Ricky Hatton, I remember that fight happened with Floyd Mayweather in Vegas. He brought out like 40,000 Brits, so it's okay when they support theirs, but every time somebody hears that they support black owned, it's just like a radar shoots up, so it just kind of pisses you off on that. It kind of makes you fed up even in that manner. That's why I say when Anthony Joshua was saying that, he's not trying to start some type of race war. No, he's just saying, hey, we need to get up. We need to support our own and get us to this level. Just because he has money doesn't mean all of us have money and have it easy. So he's saying we need to get to a certain point where we feel comfortable and we can compete, on a fair level now with anything in life, not just boxing or money, but just saying that, oh man, like now we can walk the streets and not feel like a target's on us. So my thoughts on just like people not backing Anthony Joshua, well, you weren't fans with him to begin with, because I think that anytime a champion stands for something good, it should always bring a person closer to that champion. Same with Muhammad Ali. Go back to Muhammad Ali. When he stood against the war, people kind of separated, the people that stood with him and the people that left him. And I think the people that left him, that just kind of showed you that they didn't really want him to speak out. They were kind of like the dumbass Fox lady. They just want him to shut up and fight. Same like she said about LeBron James, to shut up and dribble. They don't want you to speak out. They want you to be tame. And that's what they thought about Anthony Joshua. They thought he was tame, but the man's a fighter, and I commend him for, speaking out in his own way. So yeah, shout out to both of them, Wilder and Joshua, for speaking out on that. I just kind of wanted to go in a little bit more. Like I said, I talked about it last week on the Jab podcast, but yeah, I just wanted to, kind of give you my thoughts on that. and where I stand as far as, uh, champions, speaking up outside of the ring. Like I said, it's nothing, it's nothing new. And especially these situations are nothing new. So anytime you can have somebody bring their bring their energy and bring their use their platform to speak out on, what's wrong in America. I commend them for it, especially again, Anthony Joshua, him being from the UK, he's not liking what he sees over here because, they have issues, not everything is perfect over there. So they, they ride with us too. So yeah, shout out to Wilder and Joshua, definitely. Real champions, man. But yeah, man, moving on, going back to last weekend, we had some good women's MMA fights. Julia Avila, man, damn, man, she scored a win over one of my favorite fighters, Gina Mazzani. Very quick, 22-second fight. Not much to say about that one, except, I just want to see Gina Mazzani bounce back and, kind of work some things out as far as, just as far as her patience. Uh, and, and really, I don't know, man, like at this point, it might, I don't know if it would be wise for her to go to Invicta just so we can really work out her weaknesses and her strengths, because Julia Avila right now, I was telling some people this before, like I see something in her, I see her growing. Even when I seen her in Invicta, she's had some very, very impressive wins that pushed her into the UFC. So she is going to be a force in the bantamweight division. So I just want to see like Gina Mazzani not take any more type of punishment like this until she can really get right and kind of, work on some of her skill sets. And the best way to do that to me would probably be to go back to Invicta to be able to work some things out, because right now I think a lot of the ladies in the bantamweight division are pretty tough, and they're not going to give you time to step back. So if you need to take a step back on your own, just take a step back and make sure you can get back, get right. Um, who else did we have? Oh yeah, Mariya Agapova. I'm a fan of Mariya Agapova. She made easy work of Hannah Cyphers. If you heard my prediction video, I pretty much broke that down. Also in a post fight, also talked about that. My main question about that situation was, why did they let Hannah Cyphers take that fight? Why? And that's another thing about having a good corner. I think when you invest in a fighter and you train a fighter and you really stand with them, you know, you have to be there with them every step of the way as far as, making the right choices for their career path, and like I said, I don't know what's going on in the camp. I don't know what the career path is. Is it to stay focused in a weight where we feel comfortable, or is it about the bag? I don't know how much she was offered to fight somebody like Mariya Agapova, but going into that one, I already knew that was a mismatch, because we're already talking about Hannah Cyphers. This is a fighter that even some of the people won't comment on my channel say that she should be an atom weight. Some people say she should be atom weight, which means going back to Invicta or the UFC eventually making an atom weight division. So her stepping up to 125 was just like, why? And remember, she just fought 2 weeks ago and lost to Mackenzie Dern, at strawweight. So, to me, I was just kind of like, why take that risk of doing damage to yourself and, not only to you physically and psychologically, but to your career? You don't want to be just known as like a journeyman. I mean, I don't know that, but you're kind of putting yourself in that category. You just take short notice fights out of your league, and that spell nothing. Like, let's say even if Hannah Cyphers did beat Mariya Agapova in the flyweight division, what next from there? Because she's fought Macy Barber, got stopped in that fight. There's not much for her at flyweight. We're talking about Hannah Cyphers is like 5'1", and she's a small frame girl. She has skill, but she doesn't have enough skill to carry her through, the much bigger, stronger ladies. So all of this to me should have been discussed, in the corner. I mean, of course, she gets the final say. She's the fighter that says, I'm not scared of anybody. But sometimes there comes a point when you can't think with the heart. You got to think with the mind. all the time, actually. You always got to think with the mind. Don't think with the heart all the time like that, man. Like, um, because it could just set you up for failure. And it did. Now you have back to back losses in less than 2 weeks. And now you got to really think about what you want to do and remember the damage you suffer. Because just even going back and look at the fight, Mariya Agapova, like I said, she's a dangerous fighter. I said it. You don't want to mess with a dangerous, hungry fighter. Going into this one, she's been asking for fights. Maria's been asking for fights because she needed the money. And when people are in that type of desperate mode, they're ready to kill. And she made that big statement um, Saturday night with her UFC debut, man. And the beating that Hannah Cybers suffered was, of course, worse than the Mackenzie Dern fight, but you know, because that's why she was able to get that quick turnaround because she didn't really get hurt in that last fight. But again, mentally to me, I feel like the fight could have been damaging. Mackenzie Dern fight could have been damaging, but now you face the more physically and psychologically damaging fight, with Mariya Agapova. So I just feel like it wasn't a wise decision on Hannah Cypher's their part to take that fight. Um, if I was in her corner, I'd say, nah, I don't think you should take this one. I don't care if it's 2 week notice. I don't care how much money it is because, if you're really looking to get back in there and face tough competition at strawweight and you really want to be champion, then you're going to stay on that champion road. You really don't see a lot of champions step out of the box in freak show fights, like big mismatches. They stick to the path they're on. You don't see a Terrence Crawford going from 147 and then taking a fight at 168, just because of the money or just because it's there, and that's the one thing about boxing. Sometimes, your champions, they can be picky, but their career paths can be a little bit more defined. There won't be there's mismatches in boxing, but you won't see a lot of freak show fights like this until somebody's about to retire. You really won't see things like this until somebody's like on the way out the door. But yeah, man, yeah, I just didn't think that was a wise choice for Hannah Cyphers. I mean, I think she's a highly skilled fighter that still can improve. I think she just needs to be in that right, comfortable weight. And from here, no more short notice fights. No more short notice fights at a high weight. Because it really was just a mismatch going in. I called this one, first round. I actually gave her second round stoppage loss, but I just hope she makes the right choice from here. But Mariya Agapova, man, like I said, I'm a fan of her. I think she's what the flyweight division needs right now. She's got character. She's really, really hungry, like I said. And I've talked to her online a few times, and I feel like she's definitely, got her heart in the fight game. She's fought in Invicta, she's fought on the Contender Series, and she just wants to fight the best. She just wants to fight everybody on her level and eventually get to that flyweight title shot. You can already see it in her. Very dangerous fighter, still growing, and she's only 23. Very good striker, decent takedown defense too, and all that aside, I think her marketing is there. I think that she could definitely be like the next big energy fighter in the flyweight division. It's kind of similar to Joanna. She kind of brings that energy where she wants to fight. Not necessarily the bully energy like Joanna was bringing, but she definitely has character where, she comes to the ring dancing, she comes to the ring moving, like she's excited to fight. And after she's done, she's just got that fighter look, like she enjoyed what she did. She's ready for the next one. So that's something that they need right now. The flyweight division has a lot of growing talent, but there's like this big gap between Valentina, the champion, and everybody below her. You know what I mean? Like everybody can kind of fight it out here. And then there's just Valentina. And then as far as just like character wise, like there's not really a lot of, you know, there's not a lot of characters that make people's eyes go to the division. Kind of like when Ronda Rousey was around the bantamweight division. She kind of gave it light. Then she had rivalries with Misha Tate. Then along came Holly Holm. So everybody kind of had their moniker. They had their character. The preacher's daughter, Misha Tate. So everybody kind of had a character in there. Because it's entertainment. Still entertainment. So when you look at the flyweight division, you got a lot of good fighters. You got a lot of good talent there, but there's still that character missing that I think a lot of people are looking for. Go back to '90s heavyweight division in boxing. There was a lot of good characters there. Everybody from Lennox Lewis to Ray Mercer, Michael Moore, Evander Holyfield, of course, Riddick Bowe. So they all kind of had like a personality to them. Yeah, that's what I was looking for, personality. There needs to be more personality in the flyweight division, and I think Mariya Agapova, more and more she climbs that ladder and gets into the top 10, she's going to bring some personality to the division. But yeah, man, going back to that's moving forward, going to the main event. Jessica Eye versus Cynthia Calvillo. Okay, so my thoughts on this is a main event. I didn't think it was a very good main event. Good fight, but not a good main event. A lot of people have already commented, even my Instagram, about that. And I was just like, I've been real. Yeah, man, it's not, it's not a good main event. We're talking about Jessica Eye, a fighter who missed weight 2 times, is bouncing back from a devastating loss to Valentina, the champion. And Cynthia Calvillo, good fighter, but this is her debut at flyweight. And at the same time, she's still kind of she's a fighter that's kind of putting character in there too as well. She's kind of putting some character into the flyweight division too, but not enough to carry a main event. So my thoughts on that part, yeah, not a good main event. Good fight, yeah, definitely turned out to be a good fight. Went the way I felt it would. Cynthia Calvillo dominated, from round 2 on. And like I said in my post-fight discussion, I think Cynthia Calvillo is a very talented, smart fighter. She's what the division needs when it comes to IQ. It's not all about who can hit the hardest or who's the strongest. And I mean, she's definitely not that type of fighter. She's a fighter that likes to figure you out. And once she's figured you out, that's when she kicks your ass. That's when she starts putting the beating on you. You can see her in the ring, octagon, when she's actually figuring the fighter out. Then when she gets to that point, that's when she goes in for the kill. And I think that's another thing the division needs, and she kind of has that. So, between her and Mariya Agapova, I think they'll put some life into the flyweight division, and this Saturday we got Courtney Casey and Jillian Robertson coming up too. So that's another good fight. They're 2 good fighters too as well that I think will put some life in there. Once they get higher up, depending on who wins this fight coming up. But Cynthia Calvillo, I think again, like I said, she is a very strong fighter, and flyweight division might be good for her. Since she was having trouble making strawweight. So going back to what I wanted to go back and talk about too is just the weight. Just kind of want to go back and talk about the weight with Jessica Eye. It's like the second fight in a row where she's missed weight, second time at flyweight where she's missed weight. And Cynthia Calvillo at the post fight, Cynthia Calvillo claimed that her team received a text message from Eye's coach 30 minutes before the scheduled weigh-in. According to Calvillo, Jessica Eye was supposed to weigh in at 129.6. That was per Jessica Eye's coaching staff. However, Evil Eye would eventually weigh in at 126.25 pounds. And what else does it say? The allegations against Eye are that she held a towel during the official weigh-in, chiefly being the reasons for going over by only 0.25 pounds. And Cynthia Calvillo says she went into this fight a lot heavier than I did. Not only did I move up a weight class, but I got somebody who was a bantamweight going in there fighting a flyweight. So that was those are the words from Cynthia Calvillo that she made about Jessica Eye at the post fight. And they didn't actually post the text that she got from the coach, but if she does, that would be even better evidence just to say, hey, Jessica Eye is really being unprofessional. So like I said, this is the second time she's missed a weight. And, it was her that said she could make flyweight and go down and, dominate. But you can't just be, it was almost like being a weight bully to me. You just feel like you couldn't capitalize with your skill in the much, more skillful, stronger ladies at 125, 135. So you move down and just kind of bully women at 125. I'm not really for that. I mean, I'm for people moving up and down in weight if they're going to be legit and they're legit going to be competitive with everything on the level. But if you're just jumping from one weight to another because, you know, you want to be a weight bully, you know what I mean? Like somebody Jessica I has the frame to be a bantamweight. Just look at it. You know, she has the frame to be a 135. It's almost like she knows she doesn't have the skill though. And if you don't have the skill, then should you really be fighting? That's a question. I mean, you like I said, you got the size and that's where you need to be. Well, that just tells you something that you just need to work on your skill. It's not the weight, it's you. It's your skill. It's your IQ, it's your heart. Do you really want to fight? Do you really want to improve? You just want to move up and down and weight where you think the fight's going to be easy, So just unprofessional moves on Jessica I. And like I said, as fighters, I think fighters really have to take time to look at their bodies and say, okay, where do I need to be? Where do I feel comfortable at? And is moving is moving down to this weight, is it going to hurt me physically in the long run? If it's going to hurt me, then do I want to take that chance? Let me stay here where I know my body feels good at. The fighters are tough, but let me take the time to say, okay, let me improve on this. Let me add this to my arsenal. Let me improve on my strength. Let me work on fighting in the pocket, fighting on the outside. That's the type of thing that she just needs to do. I mean, again, I never thought the weight was a problem with Jessica even when she was a bantamweight. I just thought it was a skill. I said, well, she's not improving. But when she moved down, I was just like, okay, what is that going to do? Besides make you a little bit stronger, make you more of a weight bully. You know, Somebody like Valentina Shevchenko, when she was a bantam, she could be a bantamweight. She could be a bantamweight, but also she also had the frame to move down to flyweight. Even honest truth, I'd like to see her back up at bantamweight. I'd like to see her get back up there eventually. Because right now I think she just outskills everybody at flyweight. But in Jessica I's case, when it comes to the weight, I don't, I just think that with the look she had on her face, even at the weigh-in, you look pitiful. You said you could barely stand after the weigh-in. Well, that tells you something. That tells you that you were just running from the bantamweight division to avoid real competition. But that's where you need to run back to. Honestly, that's just where you need to be at. Uh, the flyweight division is not for you. It's for ladies that eventually grow out of 115. Alexa Grasso's moving up. Uh, Courtney Casey moved up. Ioana eventually is going to have to move back up. Cynthia Calvillo's moved up. With the frame fits her, it looks good on her. Jessica, on the other hand, like I said, never looked like a flyweight to me. Always looked like a bantamweight. It was just evident that her skill set never evolved. And like I said in my post-fight video, I'd never really seen it much improvements in her. So yeah. Final thoughts on that topic. Jessica just needs to move back up to bantamweight. Shout out to Cynthia Calvillo. She did what she needed to do. Caitlin Chikagan called Cynthia Calvillo out. That's a fight I like to see. I'll be pulling for both fighters are good, but I like to see what I'll be pulling for Cynthia to see what she can do in that fight. I think that she has the IQ to handle an experienced fighter like Caitlin Chikagan. But yeah, moving on. Moving on to this main topic I wanted to talk about, being tough. Are you tough enough, man? you know, um, like I said, I kind of came to, when to talk about the word tough and, the phrase being tough enough in combat sports, more and more over the years, just because I see a lot of fights out there where guys continue to just go in there and think that there's some type of moral victory on the line, and a few weeks ago, Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer, that's the one fight that really brought that out in me again, to say, when is tough enough? When is it time for you to just say, okay, you prove you're tough. Let's move on from here. Okay, let's work on something else. Let's gain some wins off of skill now. Let's gain some wins off of your IQ. Um, you showed you have the hardest chin. You show you got the biggest heart. You go toe to toe. You fought through the blood. You bloodied somebody else up. You came out looking like a killer in there, but let's start looking like a scientist. Let's start looking like a wizard. Let's start looking like uh, an artist. Let's come out untouched a little bit. Let's paint the other person this time. Let's paint them and let us come out looking clean. You know, and looking back at Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer, that was like another perfect example. That was a second fight with Felicia Spencer where, you know, the only thing critics could say or commentators could say about Felicia Spencer is that, man, this girl is tough. Every time you hear DC, saying, oh man, this girl is tough. You know, I want to hear something different. Me, honestly, like I've never been the boxing fan or the MMA fan that was just about, oh man, this guy's chin is great. This guy's chin is granite. you know, that's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, wow, he slipped that. Oh wow, look at that, the speed of that jab. Look at that timing. Look how he's taking this guy apart. Look how he's fighting on the inside and not getting tired. Look how he's on the inside and just hitting this guy with everything he's got, but his opponent can't hit him. That's the impressive stuff. Not to say tough, proving you're tough isn't a necessity to me. It definitely is. Being tough is a part of the sport. There's many angles of being tough. When to show hard. How you react to punches. Uh, when to being the guy to use IQ when you've been outslugged. When somebody has more power than you, it takes a tough guy to say, "Let me step back from trying to punch with him and just go back to boxing on the outside." Let's slip a little bit. Let's jab a little bit. Let's coast a little bit. You know, um, I think somebody like Felicia Spencer, has proven time and time again in all her fights that she's tough, but it's time to start to evolve now. It's time to start using the head and not for a punching bag. Start using the brain. Going back to the Cyborg fight, a lot of people felt like that was an even competitive fight. I didn't see that. Me and a lot of people that are real hardcore fans of mixed martial arts know what a toe-to-toe fight is. Because that term was put out there. There were people saying that Cyborg and Felicia were going toe-to-toe. Toe-to-toe, you know, I shouldn't have to break that down to you hardcore fans or any fan of combat sports. I shouldn't have to break down that down to any of y'all. I mean, toe-to-toe is Gotti Ward, those fights. That's toe to toe. Cyborg Felicia Spencer was more Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia. A more talented, tougher, bigger, stronger fighter. And the other opponent, tough, gifted, but not as skilled. Has high durability when it comes to taking a punch, but that's about it. Errol Spence outboxed and outpunched Mikey Garcia for 12 rounds, and Mikey was just in there able to take the beating for 12 rounds. Chris Cyborg put a beating on Felicia Spencer, and that's 5 rounds. She got cut in the first round, but who doesn't? Who doesn't get cut in a fight? That's what this is. But from there on, even the round that Chris Cyborg got cut in, she still won. From there, it was just a beating. There wasn't really no toe to toe action in there. It was just Chris Cyborg out slugging and out punching, out striking Felicia Spencer. And then jump into this fight. Most recent, Amanda Nunes did just about the same thing, I mean, almost even worse. There was just so many points in that fight with Felicia Spencer where Felicia would absorb big punches, go back to waiting. Amanda Nunes fire off big right hand. Felicia Spencer couldn't find her way in there, and when you hear commentators or you hear people watching the fights, viewers, they're saying, oh, this fight is tough, man. Like, it takes more than a fighter. It takes more than being tough to be a fighter. And that's why I say, even for somebody's corner like Felicia Spencer, there has to be a point when they say, okay, even in training camp, they'll be like, okay, this time we're going to work on this. We're going to take this fight at a different approach. We're not going to go in the same way. We're going to have to go in different because we're in the UFC now. We're fighting one of the best fighters in MMA today in Amanda Nunes. We're fighting a two-division world champion, so we cannot go in there the same way we were showing the toughness against ladies like Pam Bam Sorensen or Megan Anderson. We got to take a totally different approach now. And that's something that I feel like the camp needs to be working on as far as levels. We cannot take the same approach. It should have started with Chris Cyborg. Chris Cyborg, that fight was like, no, we cannot go in there head first against Chris Cyborg. We know what she possesses in power. We got to find her weaknesses. We got to watch her tapes over and over. Same with Amanda Nunes. We should have watched Cat fight. We should have watched Lex Davis. We should have watched the two Valentina fights. Of course, Amanda Nunes won the two Valentina fights, but we got to find out what kept Valentina standing in both of those fights. We got to go back and look at all that. We just can't go in there head first like this is a Megan Anderson. No. What this fight turned out to be, some people say it was a sparring session. Oh, hell no, it wasn't a sparring session. This was a slaughter session. To be honest, this was a slaughter session. Amanda Nunes was just teeing off on Felicia Spencer in this fight. She was a fighter who didn't get a chance to really, really evolve in her skill set. She's a fighter more so being pushed off her heart. And that's what the UFC is kind of marketing her as right now. They're just kind of going in there saying, okay, we need somebody with heart. Let's play this playback of her and Chris Cyborg, where she bloody Cyborg. But remember the rest of the fight, y'all. You got to remember the rest of the fight and how it went. That was only a big moment against Chris Cyborg. It wasn't enough to say she's going to kill Amanda Nunes or, she's going to give Amanda Nunes a tough fight. Because even I said, my prediction video, I said Felicia Spencer is going to have to make this an ugly fight and have the ability to make it an ugly fight. But Amanda Nunes, a fighter of her caliber, has seen it all. You could just look at it from the outside and say, okay, I know what she's going to do from here. I think that for any fighter, any corner, there has to be a point whenever you say, okay, we have to take a different approach. We cannot just make this another blood and guts fight. We have to get out of this tough this tough entertainment type fighter, if you really want to be a champion. Time and time again, the best champions in the world, Andre Wards, the Floyd Mayweathers, the James Tonys, of course they've taken punches, but their rise to becoming great champions came with skill, not just toe-to-toe battles. It's good to show. Here's one thing I do want to say about being tough. Like, I don't want to see my fighter prove they're tough when it counts, when the fighter gets dropped or a fighter gets rocked and they're able to get back up, that's when I want to see that toughness. That's when I want to see them get back up and say, that's why I want to be able to say that fight is tough. Like when you see Riddick Bowe rock Evander Holyfield, he comes back in those moments. That's what you want to see. Burt Cooper, when he dropped Evander Holyfield, he got back up and was able to stop Burt Cooper. That's when you say, damn, that guy's tough. Whenever you're in the corner getting bashed and you have to fight your way off the ropes, that's when you want to see. You just don't want to see him always go in there asking for the punishment, I don't want to just say when my fighter's tough because he just goes in there and asks for the punishment. And he's like, hell, hit me, Oh yeah, I took the punch. I can take another one, kind of like Mayorga used to do, he get hit in the face and, he want more, you know, that's all just entertainment. That's just entertainment. That's not really going to help you in the long run. And that's not going to help, fighters who just fight head first or think they can just go in there all the time and win off of guts. That's why I say it's important for a corner to let a fighter know when it's time to be tough. Are you tough enough? Okay, you're already a fighter. We know you're tough enough, but when is tough enough? And that's what I think. Tough is enough whenever you've shown that time you were down and you got back up, taking a punch because of a simple mistake, you came back, or you came back from an L. You came back from an L. The L didn't phase you. You learned from it. You kept going. Those are those are just the little pieces of toughness that you really want to see. But you never want to see a fighter absorb too much punishment. And going to somebody like Felicia Spencer, still in her 20s, I don't want to see her become a punching bag. I want to see her learning from fights like, Chris Cyborg and Amanda Nunes, because Felicia Spencer, man, she's got to be the future of the featherweight division right now. There's not too many other featherweights. She's got to be the future of it. So she's got all the other keys. She's got the strength. She's definitely got the heart. Again, we know she's got the chin. She's working. She's definitely working on her skill set. But when she goes in there against these ladies like Amanda Nunes and Chris Cyborg, I'd rather just see her lose by skill, but not getting beat up. Like when Canelo fought Mayweather, like he didn't try to go in there head first against the smaller guy. Uh, Mayweather outboxed him. That's how a growing fighter learns. And from there, Canelo just like became much better. His IQ went from here to here now. He's got to be a better boxer. I think with the way Felicia Spencer took the approaches, instead of making those learning experiences, because there wasn't really any other moments in that fight where she could have pulled out the win. There had to be a point where you just took your foot off the gas and just kind of learned from the fight instead of taking a beating, And that's why I was saying, I was telling somebody too, like, it was another point too where tough is enough, where you could have just stopped the fight in the fourth round with Nunes and Spencer. If you're not really learning from it and you're just absorbing punishment and the blood is in your face, I don't really see you learning from that anymore. Your brain is foggy. You're worried about if you're going to pass out. So that's another point. That's another point where you just have to say, hey, I'm tough enough to say I was beat. So we'll call it a day. Instead of riding out 5 rounds and taking more punishment, let's just call it a day. We already proved that we're tough, but our skill wasn't there today. Our skill wasn't there today, so we'll stop. So that was the other thing I just want to say. I thought that Spencer and Nunes could have just been a fourth round TKO, and that would have been fine because the fifth round was really not necessary. But yeah, in general, young fighters, out there coming up, just, don't go in there head first, don't go in there thinking just off of toughness and that's all you need. If you really want longevity in any combat sport, it all comes down to the IQ, and toughness isn't necessarily how many punches you can take or how hard your chin is. It's about being wise and using what's up here first. Being tough is walking away sometime. It takes a lot to walk away because you got to think, got to have that tough skin because it's going to sit on you for a while. If you don't really come to terms on why you did what you did, you walk away from something, you got to be tough to do that. But yeah, man, let me know what y'all think in the comments section, just about that. That way of thinking in general about proving your toughness in the fight and how important it is to you. Because like I said, I've never really been a fan of the commentating or the overzealous of giving a fighter too much, just too much credit on how much punishment they take or how much blood they let leak in a fight. You know what I mean? Like I've never been that one that gets so excited about that. I mean, maybe because I'm a nerd about boxing, but and MMA, but I'm more impressed about like watching the best just put on a great chess match where you can just see the focus in them, the focus in them, the dedication it takes in a fight, to actually stay poised and stay out of danger and just work on your defense. That's just me, but I just look in that I just look also in that trainer mind frame that I want to see my favorite fighters or fighters I'm a fan of be able to fight another day at the same mental capacity, or from that same mental capacity or at a higher. I want them to learn from a fight. I don't want them to get their brains bashed in to where they're losing their memory or losing part of their eyesight. I'm not about that. I'm not about that. I want to see somebody fight through blood, but yeah, I don't want them to have to do it because they want to do it or they feel like they need to do it because the crowd wants them to do it. But yeah, man, that was just something I just kind of wanted to talk about, man. Like I said, I feel like fighters are tough in general, but yeah, toughness is there's just so many angles to it. There's just so many angles to it when we talk in combat sports. But yeah, man, moving on. Last topic, boxing's return. Boxing returned last week. First top rank event was on Tuesday of last week. Shakur Stevenson, he scored a 6th round TKO over Felix Carabala, and I was glad to see boxing back. But I talked about this with my partner, Boxing P. I wasn't like ecstatic, I wasn't like boom, I wasn't like crazy about it, like I was with MMA. I hope boxing's not going to lose me. Boxing's never going to lose me to mixed martial arts, man. But I was just like, man, I wanted to see something a little bit more exciting. Like I'm a fan of Shakur Stevenson, but I just felt like he was just too skilled for Felix Carbala. I'm not that familiar with Felix, but from what Shakur Stevenson did, it was just like another outclass. For 6 rounds. He showed how strong he was, how good of a guy he is at keeping range. Great jab. I like the right hook from Shakur Stevenson, right down to his body punch. Devastating body blow. Devastating punches to stop Felix Caraballo. But yeah, my first reaction just on boxing being back, I was glad. I was excited. But at the same time, like I said, it wasn't really something I didn't walk away feeling like satisfied, like, yeah, boxing is really back, because of course they're not going to bring boxing back with like high level matches. We had trouble getting high level matches when boxing was still breathing. You know what I mean? So I didn't really expect it like to be some great matchup yet because yeah, so much red tape now stops a lot of great matches from happening now. But I guess that's just another reason that MMA kind of thrives a little bit more when it comes to matchmaking and legacy for these fighters in mixed martial arts. They tend to make the fights even whenever there's a layoff. You go right back in there against a tough opponent. Teron Woodley, he went back in there against Burns. Got his ass handed to him, but he went in there. He went in there for 5 rounds. That's after like a year layoff. So that, of course, was a type of match everybody's looking forward to. Um, I just feel like boxing right now to really get back on the map as far as with this COVID-19 going down and now everything's just like starting to pick back up. The matches are definitely gonna have to pick up by August or September. Especially when PBC comes back. And that's why I say shout out to Errol Spence. Shot Errol. He doesn't want any tune-ups. He said that on his Twitter. People are kind of coming back at him. Shout out to you, Denny Ugas. I got love for that guy. He's one of the top fighters in the welterweight division. He had some words about Errol Spence kind of, not wanting to fight with him because he felt like Ugas wasn't a name. But Errol's after both. He wants the legacy. and the name, and he, of course, he wants the money, So three things, um, taking on guys like Danny Garcia, Manny, and Terrence. Well, those aren't fights where you're saying you're ducking a guy like Ugas in that situation. I think Errol Spence, knows that all of these fights are win-wins down the middle. There's no mismatch in big money in a Danny fight, especially for Errol, who's coming off a car accident. Errol's coming off a car accident, but he wants to get right back in there against somebody like Danny Garcia. And Danny's no slouch. I mean, according to people on my Jab Effect Facebook page, I posted up his Errol Spence's 3-fight plan, and there's some people saying that Errol won't get past Danny. Some people are saying that Danny's going to beat Errol. So Danny Garcia is not a mismatch. He's definitely going to be just as tough a fight for Errol as a Ugas fight would. But there's also money there, so Errol's going to feel like this is the fight that makes more sense. So Ugas, I don't think he should feel any type of way about Errol, going this way. I think eventually he'll get another fight. Ugas will. Until then, I think he should just call out Terrence Crawford. But real quick before I do come back this topic, I was just saying with boxing coming back too, like I've seen the precautions they've been taking now. I think there's like rings a little bit smaller too. In between fights, they're disinfecting the rings. They're wiping everything down, everything from the ropes, turnbuckles, everything. The fighters' hand wraps and gloves we can buy a waist now. I can't remember if they said the gloves are made of different material or whatever, but after every fight, gloves and wraps are thrown out. All that stuff is thrown out, so there's no auctioning gloves off anymore. No more of that side money. Because they're gonna be throwing all that type of stuff out now just to be on the safe side. Of course, testing everybody that goes into the building is a must. So a lot of things have changed. I'm just glad that boxing is getting back on. Combat sports in general. But yeah, there's just got to be a lot of precautions taken. But I'm still wondering where we're going to be with the crowd situation. I wonder when we're going to be getting a crowd back in there. Because I still think the crowd is a big part of boxing. It's a big part of MMA. They still make the fights. And I think Terrence Crawford said he was off until he could get a crowd back in there, just because the crowd makes the fights. It's kind of like Janet Jackson performing at a concert that's empty. It's not the same. It's not the same. It's not like a director or a playwright. They're putting together a big play, and then on opening night nobody shows up. Why project your voice? Why I feel like you should really have to put in a lot of emotion to that. Of course, it is different. I mean, combat sports, anybody can fight. All it takes is two to tango, right? Two to tango. And but that's where some fighters out there get their energy from, because they've become entertainers. There are fighters, but then there's some fighters that have crossed over into being entertainers. They need that crowd. They feel like they need that crowd to thrive, and they need that crowd to get hype. They want that crowd chanting their name. They want that crowd cheering every time they score a big counter shot or knockdown or whatever. They want that crowd when they walk back to their corner and, they do the little hand raise, to make everybody amp up. They need that. Some fighters do need that fix. Terrence isn't the loudest fighter in the world. He's not like the most brash fighter out there, but, even a silence guy like that makes moves, he thrives off a crowd. But eventually he's probably gonna have to return anyway. He's probably gonna have to come back anyway, because I don't really see boxing having thousands and thousands yet. Maybe by the end of the year, we'll see how the COVID outbreaks are, but I've seen it spiking in some states. I think around the east to the west, there's been more spikes and more cases. So we'll see how that goes, man. Until then, probably say this for next episode when we'll talk a little bit more about Fight Island. Dana White, his Fight Island out in Abu Dhabi, what's going down July 11th. So yeah, man, that's something to look forward to, when everything's kind of go downhill, as far as like anytime a virus comes around, they're going to go out there now. That's the plan for it. So do a little bit more research on that, and I'll probably drop some more on Fight Island on the next episode. But yeah, man, yeah, just going back to the Errol Spence thing too, when he returns in September, like I said, he wants the big fights. That's the energy we want from all fighters. We want fighters with goals. We want fighters with plans. We want fighters taking on the best. And that's what Errol wants to do. Last time out, of course, September was Sean Porter, car accident. Hasn't been cleared to spar yet. But when he does, he's going to get back into training. He's staying near weight. Coming back in September against Danny Garcia. So, that's all we ask. We want more fighters to kind of follow suit. But yeah, man, let me know what y'all think of that fight. I know, like I said, there's a lot of people that feel like Danny Garcia has what it takes to beat Errol now. Of course, they're saying that after that car accident. But I still think Errol has it. I still think Errol's the truth, man. And shout out to him for wanting to take on the best and keep it going. But yeah, man, that's really all I got on this episode. Y'all talked y'all's head to death about. Give you my thoughts on different topics that could kind of stick with you if it makes sense. Just give me a thumbs up and subscribe. But yeah, that's all I got on this, guys. Just make sure y'all subscribe here on the YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram at Combo Breaker 99. Also, all boxing everything on Instagram. And subscribe to my other show, Jab Podcast, with my partner Boxing P. It's on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and SoundCloud. I get some new listeners every day over there, in the Jab Podcast. So subscribe to it if you like boxing. And follow us both on the Jab Effect on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Like always, I'm Combo Breaker 99. I'll see y'all later. I'm out. Peace.